These are the resolutions and documents of the International Workingmen's Association, which was founded in 1864. Much of what people think of as socialist ideas today, such as revolutionary trade unionism, were crystallized and refined during the congresses of the International. Unfortunately, some of the ideas of 19th century socialists have aged very badly. The ideas of the International generally reflected the views of male workers, since the majority of the membership were men, and the congresses of the organization were only attended by male delegates. On 2 occasions, these male delegates endorsed extremely patriarchal ideas. At the 1866 Geneva Congress, French delegates submitted a report on female and child labour, which was approved by the majority of delegates of the organization. It argued that women should be excluded from the workforce and remain in the home as mothers and wives. Ideally, women would have 4 children and educate them at home rather than in state schools. This was justified with references to the true nature of women. They asserted that woman is not made to work, her position is in the family household. She is the natural educator of the child. She alone can prepare him for a free, male, and civil existence. British delegates thought this was nonsense since women were already part of the industrial labour force. 2 French delegates, Eugène Varlin and Antoine Bourdon, did break with the patriarchal consensus and submitted a resolution that endorsed women engaging in paid work on equal terms with men. This resolution was rejected by the majority. Patriarchal beliefs continued to be endorsed at the 1867 Lausanne Congress. Belgium sections submitted 2 reports on the subject of women. The report favoured by the majority of delegates claimed that women did not belong in the workplace because it was unnatural. They wrote, "Woman, by her physical and mental nature, is called naturally to the peaceful and multifarious duties of the home. There is her domain." Both the French and Belgian reports indicate a fundamentally patriarchal vision of socialism that was widespread at the time, especially among mutualists influenced by Proudhon. In the future society, men would be free, but women remained housewives who were excluded from the public labour force and subordinated to the will of their husband. This was not just men being inconsistent with their socialist values or repeating the prejudices of their time. They were also constructing a self-serving justification for their power over women and the benefits they received from this, especially reproductive labour. It is, however, the case that not all men in the First International shared this attitude. A second report was also submitted to the Lausanne Congress, which was favoured by a minority of delegates, and had been written by P. Elsens, Eugène Hins, and Paul Robin. Their report pointed out a number of flaws with common patriarchal arguments. Firstly, even if the hiring of women causes the wages of men to decrease, the same thing happens when too many male workers are hired. It is a general product of contemporary economic conditions and could be solved in a future socialist society by integrating women into the organisation of work from the very beginning. Secondly, although women are on average physically weaker than men, they can make up for this with dexterity. Furthermore, the number of professions women can do will continue to expand as machinery improves and physical strength becomes less relevant in production. Thirdly, not all women marry or have children, and so cannot be excluded from the workforce due to their domestic duties. The burdens of women who are wives and mothers should be lessened by the socialization of domestic labour. They wrote, "It is said that woman is destined for marriage, and therefore will not have time to work. But one can answer that she may perhaps not marry, or she may be a widow without children, or she may have finished raising her children. Moreover, we should take away from the married woman all that could be better carried out with the division of labour through specific institutions, such as preparing food, washing and ironing, making clothes, and teaching children in preschool." Fourthly, they argued that women should be able to live independently without a husband if they so choose. They wrote, "A man can be free to support a woman entirely if he wants a full-time housewife, but the woman should not be bound to him as a matter of necessity. If she wants to leave him, she should be able to retrieve, in the exercise of her profession, an independent existence. They also endorsed 3 years of paid maternity leave for single mothers. Lastly, they argued that women workers should form their own organisations and unite with male workers in order to further their shared class interests. They declared that the International Working Men's Association should promote the development, among women, of associations that currently exist only for men. The women's associations should federate with the men's associations so as to fight together for the emancipation of labour, which alone will be able to assure independence for everyone. The men who wrote the second report were being extremely radical for the time and challenged the opinions of the sexist majority. Despite this, even their report is problematic by modern standards and is still working within patriarchal assumptions. For example, they advocate the public socialization of domestic labour, but do not even acknowledge the possibility of men at home doing their fair share of housework, let alone being house husbands. This highlights how difficult it can be to unlearn and see through the prejudices and opinions that we are all socialized into. On the modern left, patriarchy continues to be a massive problem. In the 19th century, it was normal for sexist men to be explicit about their patriarchal worldview. The modern patriarchal socialist, in comparison, preaches feminism and emancipation in public, whilst treating women terribly in private. He advocates building the new world in the shell of the old, and then relies on women to cook and clean for him. He praises women's sexual liberation, while still treating women as sex objects and disregarding their boundaries. He advocates a society based on horizontal association, in which people of all genders co-determine organizations via processes of free and equal discussion and deliberation. Yet his romantic relationships operate on the principle that he is always right, and the feelings and opinions of his girlfriend can be automatically ignored and discarded. I could go on and on, but you get the point. As always, the sources are in the description.